asked me to change position. And her heartbeat is still not recovering. Then they check. I'm only 9 centimeters dilated. So to me, it feels, despite all this pain that I've gone through, it wasn't enough, because then I have to be rolled to theatre to save my life, because remember, my blood pressure is very high now. And my baby's life needs to be saved. Thank you.
Welcome back to another episode of the After Making a Baby podcast. I'm your host, Stefonye, your online mama bear. And today's topic is really, really personal to me. It's about pre-eclampsia. Whew. I have an amazing mom with me. I'm going to give her a second to introduce herself before I dive into a little bit about today's topic, and then we can jump right in. Go ahead, my love.
Hi, so my name is Sarah Falkland. I'm a first-time mom. My daughter is now 2 and some months, 2 years and 4 months. The entry into motherhood was not the one that I expected, the one that I planned.
Exactly.
But there was so much for me to learn.
Yeah.
So I'm also married, worked as a nurse for many, many years. Okay. And so I decided that it was time for me for some change. Mm-hmm. So I now work in project management.
Okay.
And ever since my pregnancy experience, I decided that I couldn't allow what had happened to me to just go silent. Mm-hmm. So I've decided to raise awareness about pre-eclampsia, but also to support women, birthing people and their families to navigate this diagnosis. So I created this initiative called Mission Preeclampsia. So we're on a mission to make sure that silence doesn't take over when it comes to preeclampsia, and that women get the support that they deserve, because it's not something easy to navigate.
Exactly. So I have the perfect person for today's episode, Mission Preeclampsia. Yeah. You know what? When I found out about your platform, I was like, oh my God, I feel seen. Yeah. Because, your pregnancy is supposed to be about, from what I've heard, before I became pregnant, glowing, pregnancy glow. Preeclampsia was definitely not anything I thought was going to be part of my story. So once I found out, oh my God, there's actually someone who's been through that and also is now on a mission to create awareness, support, I was like, okay, I have to speak to her. We have to talk, because
we have to do something.
we got to do something. So today she's here with me on the After Making a Baby podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, I also want to thank you, because it's been a journey. Mm-hmm. It wasn't easy. Yeah. Initially, I was trying to understand what had happened to me. Yeah. I thought that it was normal, because it seems like women are giving birth every day. So why would I complain about my birthing experience when women have done it before me and people will continue to do it after me? So it has taken a lot of courage, resilience, strength, just to say that I'm not going to allow what has happened to me to bring me down. Yeah. So and that's why I'm grateful for you asking me to come on, because raising awareness about preeclampsia feels like something that, again, I didn't plan to do. Yeah. That's not how I thought my life would go, or what I would be doing or involved in. Yeah. But it's something now that has taken so much space into what I do, the kind of people I engage with. So it's deep. It's deep.
Whew.
So it means
there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack. But before we jump in to this really deep episode, let's do a little icebreaker.
Okay, wow.
And get a bit comfortable.
Let's just see, yes.
So basically, I'm going to be asking you a question.
Sure.
And the icebreaker is basically before baby and after baby. So I ask you a sentence and how it was before baby, and then you tell me how it is after baby. Okay, so first question. Before baby, I thought birth would be. So before baby, I thought birth would be.
Right. I think that's an interesting question because I don't think the women around me really shared what they birth were like.
Yeah.
So I think I relied on what I had seen on TV or movies or in movies. So let's say, I don't know, I say I envisioned birth as I wanted something very smooth for my baby. I didn't want it to be too medicalized. I wanted to have this time to bond where there wouldn't be too many people around me, so then we could just connect after. Okay, we're connected through the umbilical cord, but just to have this time doing skin to skin, maybe having my partner joining us and be in this intimate, like in our bubble, basically. Yes. As it happened. So that's how I thought. Yes. That's what I envisioned for my birth.
So after baby, I learned birth can be...
Birth can be unpredictable.
Yes.
Birth can be challenging. Birth can be painful. And birth can change a lot of things about your body and yourself.
Oh, that is so real and so raw because it depends on how the birth goes.
Yeah.
It also affects your recovery and afterwards.
Absolutely.
My second question, which is about recovery. Before baby, I thought recovery would be...
easy.
Yeah. Yes. Easy. I never even thought about recovery, to be honest.
Yeah, and to be fair, my sister-in-law mentioned this. She said, Sarah, we're planning the birth, right? But have you thought about what happens after? And that's when I was, actually, I need to get some stuff for the after period.
Yeah.
For the postpartum. I thought it would be a walk in the park, basically, because again, I think it's just lack of exposure to other experiences, and again, even from the women that you are surrounded by. Yes. I don't know if it's because people assume that this is just something normal to do. Yes, so they don't really feel like sharing, or maybe because they've gone through some very painful experiences themselves, so they don't feel like sharing. About it. So I thought it would be easy.
Now, after baby, I realized recovery is
a roller coaster.
Love that.
There are ups, there are downs. There's pain, there are tears, there are questions, there's doubts. So it's not linear. You have to go with a flow, but you don't even know where this flow is coming from, where it's taking you. So you just have to float. Trying to keep the head out of the water, and also without knowing for how long you're gonna have to flow for. Yeah,
it's true. You're going through that postpartum, the 4th trimester, and you don't even know how long it lasts. Like there's no blueprint on after 3 months, after 4 months. Exactly. Like it takes some people 2 years.
Exactly. And I think also there's the assumption, because there's this postnatal check at 6 or 8 weeks, you just assume that it's over.
That's like when it's supposed to be fine.
When it takes longer for the body to recover. That's a major event, even when things go smoothly, peacefully.
Exactly. Even when you have the smooth delivery.
It already takes a toll on your body. Yeah. So imagine when there are more interventions that need to be performed. Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's real. Fine. That was real. Yes. I loved it. Okay, so before we jump into preeclampsia, let's rewind a little bit, the pregnancy, kind of, you're thinking of how your pregnancy went. When in that pregnancy journey did you realize, okay, there's something not right?
I think it started very early. Probably from, I think the first midwife appointment, when they go through all the checks, they check your blood pressure. Yeah. And it was a bit higher than what I knew my norm was. But we put it down to maybe anxiety or just this being new to me. Yeah. But as time progressed, I think the scenario was always the same. I would get to my midwife appointment. They would check the blood pressure initially at the beginning of the consultation. And it would be slightly higher than what I know that my blood pressure used to be before becoming pregnant. Yeah. And then they would check it towards the end and it would be back to my norms. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Until a midwife was like, no, I just don't want it to be like this. I'm not comfortable. Okay. I just can't explain it, but I just think that I need to refer you to the blood pressure clinic. Okay. So then if nothing happens, it's fine, but at least they keep an eye on you. And if something happens, you're already seen by them, so they can then be there for you and adjust the care that you deserve. Yeah. I can't remember exactly when I was with her, but I think it was around the 20th week. Okay. Wow. But I think from the beginning, I had some doubts based on how the midwife approach my blood pressure during the consultation. Okay. So the thing about preeclampsia is that I feel like it's not rare, but a lot of people don't know the signs. Yeah. They don't know what to look out for. And it gets too real, too fast. It escalates quickly, which is why I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. You talked about awareness, right? Awareness, because you need to know what signs to look out for, right? What symptoms to look out for. We need to speak about advocacy in terms of speaking up for your own self. Yes. Because sometimes something is not right within yourself, right? Just know.
You just know, but you kind of look to the medical people to give you a plan and you don't speak up sometimes. So we need to talk about some of the red flags moms should know. We need to talk about also the healing and how it affects you, your journey of motherhood. Once you've had that traumatic birth. So yours really happened early. You're saying 20 weeks. Aside the blood pressure, was there any other symptoms you were experiencing?
And even if it was slightly elevated compared to how my blood pressure used to be. But it wasn't out of control. Okay. That was just that's higher than what I know. Yeah. There's also something I forgot to mention. When I went for my first scan, I agreed to take part in some additional tests. Okay. Where they check on your blood flow, and they do some additional blood tests. I was also told that I was at high risk of developing preeclampsia after 34 weeks, I think. And I was given a prescription from my GP to give me some aspirin, which never happened due to, due to not understanding how the condition works and also why this prophylaxis is implemented with someone at high risk of having preeclampsia. So I just think with preeclampsia, it's hard because we are not going to be affected the same way.
Yes.
My symptoms, my journey of preeclampsia won't be similar to another lady's journey. Certain symptoms are common, but the way that it's going to show up is going to be different based on the individual. Yes. I think that's what makes it difficult to be diagnosed, on top of people not really knowing what it entails, because I have this medical background. I had heard of preeclampsia. I knew the medical definition of it. However, I didn't know that I would end up being impacted the way that I did, because you have the diagnosis itself, but it doesn't mention how it affects you emotionally. I wasn't prepared for that. So there's also this where sometimes healthcare professionals, even if they know what it is, they don't always take into consideration how it affects the women.
Okay.
Especially, and I think it doesn't even matter if it's your first, second, third, 10th pregnancy.
Yeah.
Every single pregnancy is unique. You have dreams, aspirations for each of them.
Yeah.
But I think as a first-time mom, my aspirations were definitely crushed.
Exactly. Oh, when you say that, because you find out you're pregnant, which is an amazing time, and this journey where you're supposed to be, you're expanding your family, it's your first time.
Yeah.
For me, it was a bit strange because I've never heard of pre-eclampsia before it happened to me. And then mine escalated quickly. So when I went for my 35 weeks, almost about 35, 36 weeks, I went for an appointment. That morning, they checked my blood pressure. Everything was fine. Before then, they were checking me. Blood pressure was always fine.
Okay.
Never showed up.
That's very interesting.
Fine, blood pressure was fine. At the end, towards the end, 30-something, we said missing a little bit of protein in my urine, but they were like, nothing to worry about, just traces. I went for my 36-week appointment, I believe then. Checked it in the morning, everything was fine. Blood pressure was fine. Protein, they were like, okay, still just a little traces. We'll just, I came home and then throughout the evening, I just started feeling strange. I had a massive headache.
Wow.
I said to myself, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with me. I feel so exhausted. My head, it feels like 20 times its size. Like, what? He was like, we just come back from baby moon, like literally the day before.
Oh, wow.
So I was thinking, I've been stressed. I've been walking about. Maybe I just need to eat. I just need to rest, Yeah. So he was like, let's just eat and rest. As they kept going throughout the day, like at 10 p.m., I was like, let me not ignore this because I feel this. I was like, babes, there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had like a blood pressure machine in the house. He checked my blood pressure and it was sky high. And I just felt like I was having a stroke. That's how I could describe it. Like at one point, it just kept getting worse. I couldn't speak. Wow. I just felt so heavy.
Wow.
So preeclampsia was the last thing. First of all, I've never heard of it. So it was not even on my radar. We called the hospital, like, come in right now. So it escalated so quickly. Just like you were saying that it shows up differently for people.
But I think from what you say, it highlights the fact that first, symptoms should never be dismissed.
Yeah.
And also knowing what the symptoms can be.
Yeah.
So then when they show up, you're able to be like, oh, it makes me think of, and then you can start taking actions. Just actually asking questions.
Yes.
I think most trusts have this maternity helpline that you can call and say, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. What do you think that I should do? And if you think that they're not taking you seriously, just do what you have to. If you have to go to the hospital, be like, no, I want to be seen because something is wrong.
Yeah.
Do it. And that's the thing with preeclampsia. Yeah. That's why I think awareness is never enough because I think you constantly have to remind people that it's out there, it exists, and it should never be ignored. Yeah. At 33 weeks and 3 days, I was diagnosed with pregnancy-induced hypertension where literally my body wasn't able to compensate like this ups and downs. So I was started on antihypertensive medication. And a week later, so after being diagnosed with pregnancy-induced hypertension, I was then asked to do a 24-hour urine collection. The results came back and there was protein higher than what the norm is for a pregnant body, for pregnant women.
Yeah.
So the association of these two symptoms made that I was diagnosed with preeclampsia.
That was at 33.
So that was then 34 weeks and 3 days.
Okay.
Around Christmas time. And I think we're talking about it medically, but I felt absolutely lost.
Yeah.
So my partner couldn't always come with me. So that was me facing this kind of bad news on my own, feeling so vulnerable. I understood at some point that my dream water birth couldn't happen because I needed to be monitored.
Like the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
This is not how I planned.
Yeah, no.
We have this plan. They tell you make a plan for how you want your birth to be.
I mean,
so how did that affect you in terms of just that this is not how I planned, and then also the fear that your baby, something could happen.
Yeah.
Like
I had to grieve. That. I think what didn't help was when I realized that I wouldn't have this water birth as I was dying to have for my first baby.
Yeah.
No, doesn't mean that I can't have it if I ever get another child, but it was important. That's what I wanted for my first experience. Sorry. So it couldn't happen. So I started crying, and the doctor was just looking at me like, why are you crying? Like, in a way, actually, no, she did ask me, why are you crying? And I was just like, do I even have to justify why I'm crying when it means that what I hoped for is not going to take place?
Yep.
I cried on my way to the hospital because I was scared of what my blood pressure would be. I cried on my way home because I didn't understand why my blood pressure was acting up.
Yeah.
I cried because I was scared. I cried because I didn't feel I could talk about what was happening to me. I didn't feel people understood.
Yeah.
I think people just thought that it's just high blood pressure, but they didn't realize what it came with, like everything that
changed because of
how
it.
it affected everything else.
Your plan, everything.
I'm so sorry.
Don't ever apologize. Don't ever apologize for being real and raw.
It was difficult.
It's such a grieving period. Like for me, I was like, wait. I'm not ready. Like, for example, mine happened in the space of a few hours.
Yeah.
I went in, they're like, we have to get this baby out now. I'm like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. This is not what I planned. Like, can you give me a second to...
Yeah. And I can relate to that. They gave me more time, but still I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Because again, even with pre-eclampsia having protein in the urine, because I was closely monitored, they're like, okay, you seem okay. So let's just see if we can reach full term. Because they wanted the baby to stay as long as possible because I was again stable enough and I was responding well to the blood pressure medication. So like, okay, cool. Let's just keep the baby as long as possible. And 37 weeks came about quite quickly from 34 weeks and 3 days. And before you know it, we're going to induce you. But how can you induce me when, again, it feels like you're taking over this godly power when the child is supposed to come and is ready? How can I pick a date when I'm going to give birth to my child? It's very scary. Yeah. And it's very funny because we prayed because obviously I felt I couldn't turn to the humans. So I turned to God. And I kept on asking for a sign.
Yeah.
I just didn't know which date to pick for my child to be born.
Yeah.
And I was opening my Bible hoping that as I open it, there will be a clear message for me to read and say, okay, induction is the right thing for you to do, or just trust. Yeah. I mean, whatever it could have been at that time. Yeah. And this sign seemed to never come until I got to this appointment. My partner was there, and despite being on high blood pressure medication, my blood pressure was out of control. I also think that I wasn't seen. It's as if I didn't matter, me as a body. I felt I was just a vessel. Everybody seemed more worried about the baby.
Yes.
Nobody really cared about how things were affecting
you. Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do another scan, but it means me again getting undressed and having something inserted in
body.
A very intimate area okay, just to check that the baby is fine. Yes, but that's more that I should have even, because I think I had 10 scans in total when the NHS normally offers to women.
Yeah.
And you would say, yeah, at least you knew your baby was fine. Yeah, that's fair, but that's all these interventions I had to go through. Yeah. It felt like it was never ending.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, I was on my own at that time.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. Going for that, when is your first time? And you're saying this also being in the medical field, you know, and still it's still very, I feel like when you're in that spot, you almost feel so helpless. Like,
I mean, I was.
You
not even feeling, it just being.
Even if you know about the topic, you feel like I'm not prepared. Like, first of all, I didn't know this was going to be happening to me. Absolutely. And now you're going through it, you realize it's so much more than just knowing about the topic, because then the domino effect it has on your journey of pregnancy, your experience of, okay, you know, the planning and realizing that this is not going to happen as planned. Like, all the things you didn't even think about beforehand.
Yeah. At times, I thought having worked as a nurse was a disservice. Because the more things I read about preeclampsia, the more scared I became.
True.
Because I looked after patients that ended up having, or that were admitted for, or due to cardiac, renal, liver failure. So I knew too well what the consequences would be. I thought that I would end up having dialysis for a lifetime.
True. Knowing every detail actually might be a disservice to you.
Yeah, it was very overwhelming.
That is so true.
I looked after these patients, so I knew what it would entail. I was like, I don't want my child to see me to have to. Well, I didn't want my child to have to see a mom constantly being in hospital, because apparently having a sick parent affects your personality. You feel like you always have to care, even when you shouldn't. You should be playing as a child. So I didn't want to be in that position. It was just, I think I knew too well.
Yeah. Okay. I never thought about that before. I was thinking, I had no idea what preeclampsia was. When I found out, I started trying to research, but I still did not grasp the entirety of it until my situation became very, very scary very quickly. And I was like, oh my God, it's actually life-threatening. Oh my God, I could die. Oh my God, I could have seizures. Oh my God, it could affect my baby's brain. Like, it could affect me. I didn't realize. But actually, I just realized that if I knew on the other spectrum, if I knew every single detail, it would have been so crippling that you'd just be thinking, I know how bad this can be. Yes. I know how it can escalate. Yeah. I know how it can change your life forever. I know you can die. Like, that would have been so crippling. The fear of it would have been so traumatic also.
I think that's why my now husband wanted me to stay away from my phone.
Okay.
Because I think he realized how reading certain things online affected me, because I would overthink. I was also obsessed about the NICE guideline websites, because I wanted to keep as much power as I could have.
Okay.
Understanding what was coming next in terms of interventions, in terms of medication that they would be prescribing. I didn't want to just say yes and leave the whole power into their hands. I wanted to be to ask questions and be like, oh, but are you sure this is what I read? I kept on reading studies that had been released on the topic.
Studies.
I was very much obsessed.
You dived in.
I spent a lot of time on this NICE guideline, like understanding, trying to match it with my own symptoms or what had transpired at that point. Yeah, you're trying to hold on to something because you feel like there's not much you
can do. You're so out of control. You're just trying to grasp and find some control.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into delivery.
Okay.
So how was that for you in terms of, okay, you planned an induction, And now that the birth
they
plan,
they
they planned an induction,
yes,
sorry, right?
Yes.
So your birth plan got thrown out the window, right?
Yeah.
With the
a while ago,
birth.
yes.
You're told
a while before, yeah.
You have to have an induction. How did that transpire for you in terms of you accepting that, in terms of you, then going through the process of delivery also?
I think, so I mentioned to you, I was asking for this godly divine sign, praying and opening my Bible randomly, thinking that is a message, I would just jump out of it. Until this message didn't come through the Bible or anything. It came from how I felt and how my body, or what my body was going through. Despite being on medication, the blood pressure was out of control. The consultant was like, Sarah, I don't mean to scare you, but you're getting a bit swollen. My ring was getting a bit tighter than the previous weeks. So I just knew that things were getting worse, and I didn't want to wait too long for it to come to a point where there's no way to recover from it. So even if picking an induction day was one of the hardest things I had to do, because for me, again, my aspirations, whatever I thought pregnancy would be, childbirth would be, was that the baby comes when
the baby
is
ready. When God ordained it to come, that natural process.
Now you're telling me that I'm the one picky, like men choosing what,
when my baby's
getting involved. So I'm just like, okay. But because of what I was seeing, I said, no, I think this is the sign I've been waiting for. This is, that's what it meant to me. You've been waiting, but I think this is the time. The time is right now. So we booked a day for me to be admitted. So I was admitted. I told you reach full term, and then by 37 weeks we started having the conversation. So I was admitted 38 weeks plus 1 day. Gave birth 38 weeks for 3 days. So 2 days after the induction process started. I classify induction about like the worst pain I could have ever
experienced in this life.
How is that even possible? I think I faced this pain alone until someone decided to check on me. And because I was in active labor, I was then transferred to a room, a more private room. Partner showed up. I'm in pain at this point. It's too much. I'm literally rolling, this seat. I can't take it no more. And I knew that my pain had to remain under control because I knew it would be affecting my blood pressure. I'm in this room. At this point, I'm begging for an epidural because I'm worried about my blood pressure. And I have to wait. I'm still on gas and air, but I think the gas and air is not acting anymore because I think the way that what it was doing to me initially, the effects have worn off. I'm managing the way I can. And I have this contraction. At the time, this anesthetist is inserting the needle in my back.
And you have to stay still. They tell you don't move.
Exactly.
When you're contracting, you're in so much pain.
I just, you're not moving. And I think it was the contraction that changed everything because I think I contained so much pressure inside. My blood pressure shoot. Higher than what I had seen it before. And my baby's heartbeat drops. And I just received epidural. So I feel like I'm conscious that things are happening around me. But it feels like I'm in a box or I'm in a bubble. Literally. And I think when I wrote my story for the first time, I said it felt like I was a prisoner of my own body. I wanted to talk, I couldn't. I wanted to move, it felt like I couldn't. And I'm looking at the monitor because her heart rate was 160, 150, between 150, 160. And then it's dropped to between 70s and 80s beats per minute. So I know that something is going on. And that's when I see these faces. Then everybody rushes into my room. And I think there's this doctor that comes to me. I look at her face and I know things are not right. Things are not going well. But I think she's trying not to scare me. My partner is also there, but by that time, it's not even next to me. Like, they've taken over. Like, they're trying to do whatever they can in this limited time they have.
Yeah.
They start asking questions. Again, they check how dilated I am. They ask me to move, to change position. And her heartbeat is still not recovering. Then they check. I'm only 9 centimeters dilated. So to me, it feels, despite all this pain that I've gone through, it's as it is. It wasn't enough because then I have to be rolled to theatre. Save my life because remember my blood pressure is very high now. And my baby's life needs to be saved. Thank you. Because I think they're just making sure, they want to make sure that the baby isn't deprived from anything. Yeah. They put me in that room. I think everything happened so fast. I think between the time this heart rate dropped and my baby was born, it was like 7 minutes, considering like anesthesia, the anesthesia and so on. So it was very, very
it's
quick.
Very fast, yep.
And then everything took place. I had no clue. Luckily, my husband thought about giving his phone, so they recorded my daughter like as she was out, and then they were monitoring her, getting her prepped and so on. Then I went to recovery. I just remember being extremely tired. Mentioned to you, I didn't know. We decided to wait to discover if it would be a boy or a girl. So when we got ready, that was just us getting some neutral colors. Yeah. Even for the names, we selected 3 names, either for a boy or a girl. Yeah. And it's okay, based on if it's a boy, if it's a girl, we're just gonna wait, meet the baby, and then decide which name we will pick. So when I was getting conscious, like back to my normal self, they finally introduced her to me and they said, "Oh, Sarah, let me introduce you to your daughter." And I just remember saying, I knew it. I knew it'd be a girl because I had these dreams before. Where I saw a baby wearing like some pink onesie and stuff. Yeah. Or even a dream where someone in my dream said, "Oh, don't worry, everybody's going to say to you that it's going to be a boy, but you see it's going to be a girl." I was like, oh, I knew it. Yeah. And that's when we started bonding. I was just happy that she was there. But it wasn't an easy journey. I just also want to acknowledge my husband in this process because I'm talking about how it impacted me. It's not really something that we have spoken about. But I know he was scared at that time. Yeah. I know he messaged my family to tell them, "You need to pray for Sarah." Because then they just didn't know what would be happening to me or to the baby. Yeah. He held my hand then. Oh, sorry. But he continues to hold my hand now as I'm going through this process of using all this pain. He's still by my side. He's still supporting me.
That's amazing.
And he still understands what it means for me to be standing here today.
Yeah. How important
I really
it is, how passionate you are about it. Yeah.
I think I didn't realize at that time, but now I get to realize, actually, it must have been a very scary moment for him. And
it's true. We don't talk about the impact it has on the partners, because...
And look at how I felt neglected. I felt I was just a body, no.
And you're going through it, right?
So imagine him.
There's just watching, being so helpless. Like he wants to help you. He wants to, but he can't.
He can't do much. So I just want to acknowledge, give him his flowers. Because he's been my rock throughout. Oh. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, babe. On behalf of Sarah.
Yes. Honestly, I'm so grateful to have had him and to have him.
Yeah.
So to have had him at that time, to have him by my side, it made a difference. Again, I wasn't really talking about what I was going through because I felt like no one could really understand what preeclampsia means.
Yeah. It took me such a long time to talk about my birth, to talk about delivery, to talk about... I almost just blocked it from my mind because of how traumatic it was and how different it was from what I had planned, what I thought delivery was going to be, what I thought pregnancy was. So it was such a big shift or big... So in my mind, once it happened, I was so traumatized that I did not want to speak about childbirth. I didn't want to speak about another baby.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe I almost died. Like, how is this even possible?
Yes.
For you, did that delay... I guess you have your baby finally bonding. How did it affect you postpartum in terms of bonding with your baby, your recovery, your mental health also? How did that have just the trauma of it impact your recovery?
Luckily, I don't think it affected the bond.
Okay.
I think I didn't see consider my daughter as the cause of my pain, or I don't think... I never considered her as the cause of all these issues. It never even crossed my mind. So to bond with her, it was okay. Decided to breastfeed. Even the first night she slept in my arm, I was just like, you're not going anywhere. You stay with me. Yes. So it was clear that I would breastfeed. So I think this also helped strengthen the bond. So I think, the relationship with my daughter at that time was okay. It was not as if I was shy away from looking after her. No, I think I started taking charge of my new role as a mom.
Okay.
That was okay. Then I think recovery was... Again, not what I expected, because I had read so many times that because the placenta was the cause of most of these issues, the fact that I was giving birth, or that I had given birth, it would be the end of all the hassle. It wasn't. The first few hours that followed my birth, so my blood pressure was back to what I knew it was, like 110 over 60, 70, like normal for me.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it seemed like it was the end.
Yeah, it's true. They tell you, well, the only way to, get over preeclampsia or for you to be fine is for you to deliver the baby. Yeah. We need to deliver the baby. So you're thinking, okay, delivered baby and I'm back to normal and I'll be fine again and I can just be a mom and bond with my baby, forget about what happened.
Yeah. Yes. And then...
But that's not the case.
No, it wasn't. So I gave birth on a Thursday. So Thursday night, blood pressure is okay. Friday, blood pressure is fine. I'm like, you see, this is what I know my body to be. And then they said, normally we should keep you over the weekend so then you can be reviewed by the blood pressure team on Monday. Okay. I said, no, I want to go home. I just want to be with my baby, because in as much you have your corner on the bed, you're still hearing other babies.
Yes.
My husband is still sleeping on the chair. it's not comfortable. Like let's just go home. Like it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Even if I was living my best life the first day, let me go and live my best life at home, right?
Yeah.
So on the Sunday they discharged me. And I think it's everything is okay now. Like anytime my blood pressure was checked, it was okay. And then I'm told that the midwife will come to see me the following day, on the Sunday. So I think there was a match, an Arsenal match on that day. My husband is an Arsenal fan. So he's watching the match. The midwife comes, checks on me. And she checks the blood pressure, but she doesn't say to me what the reading is.
Yeah.
Again, I know.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, Sarah, I think you're going to have to be checked because the blood pressure is a little bit high." So it was 140/90. I'm like, no, again. And she's like, "Yeah, you need to go to the hospital now." And my husband is like, "But what about my match?"
Wait a minute.
Yes. So eventually we get to the hospital. They check me. So I'm back to hospital the day after giving birth.
Yeah.
C-section. Can't even walk. With a newborn, because my blood pressure
go back again.
Yes, but this time around I went to my local hospital because I gave birth at King's.
Okay,
but this time around I went to Darren Valley, which was the local hospital. They monitor me, then they start asking me because they discharged me without the medication I used to be on.
Okay. Why? Is it because they checked and blood pressure was
because the blood pressure was fine?
So they were like, you might not need it anyway. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
We go there and we get to the hospital. The pressure is normal.
Okay.
So then they discharged me, but again, without any medication. Then I think the blood pressure clinic from King's calls me. They said, "I think you should still have some supply just in case," because I had been monitoring my blood pressure at home ever since I was told I was high risk of developing preeclampsia. So after the scan, the first scan I had been monitoring my blood pressure. She was like, "Yeah, monitor your blood pressure. But I think it's safer for you to continue taking the medication a little bit longer."
Okay.
So I had my 8-week check with the GP. But I was also due for a checkup with the blood pressure clinic. So when I went back there, they took some bloods and moved on with my life. And then I received a letter a few weeks later saying that it seemed like my renal function, my kidney function wasn't back to normal yet. I think it might have been March or April. But let's say 2 to 3 months after giving birth, I was still facing the aftermath of what had happened months before.
Yeah.
I was really worried. Yeah. I had to be sent to have renal ultrasounds.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted to make sure that
your kidneys were not affected and
literally. Luckily it came back normal. Like they didn't notice anything that was abnormal. But as I say, my preeclampsia journey didn't stop with birth. It continued many months after.
Yeah.
And it was very scary.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't want to end up being on dialysis. I having to be dialyzed. I was like, no, this can't be my portion.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a shortcut or it's a resume of everything that happened, because there's so many aspects of what has happened to me, what I went through.
Yeah. The effect it has that exactly for my own story, in terms of after the baby came, they couldn't even let me out. So when first of all, they were doing blood pressure, checking my bloods and making sure that my kidneys, my liver was still fine, but they were not looking at the results.
Oh no.
So after my traumatic induction and baby came, they were like, okay, we're going to discharge you. We're going to send you. My blood pressure was still really high, going up and down. So they were like, we're going to give you some blood pressure medication and we're going to have your GP wean you off slowly. The day, let's say I stayed in the hospital maybe days maybe. And then they were like, we're going to check, discharge you. My husband I think he went to get things ready. He was on his way to pick me up. And then I felt like I was lying in the hospital bed and I couldn't move.
Oh no.
And I could barely speak. I was trying to call for help and I couldn't call for help. I managed to just call my husband. I was whispering. I was like, I think I'm dying. I remember telling him, I think I'm dying. I think I'm dying. And I just kept saying that.
Sorry.
I think I'm dying. And then he rushes.
I'm so sorry.
And then he kind of like, before then, because my husband, for people that don't know, my husband is a GP. He was saying like, he didn't want to come in and be like, I'm a GP. He was like, let's just be patient in this hospital. I'm not going to say anything medical and everything. Let's just kind of go through the process. When that happened, he was like, I want to see all her results. You all bring her test results. Let's see her bloods, everything. And he brought it. And every test they've done, everything was abnormal. And it was getting worse. And no one was looking at it. And they were going to discharge me. So when he spoke up and was like, he brought up all the medical, like, how is this? You're checking this, the platelets are this, the platelets, look at her, And then that's when they started going crazy. Like the next day, I remember so many consultants coming to my room. Oh, you're the one they've been talking about. Oh, you're the one, like they had a meeting about me. Because my husband, the hospital I had a baby in, my husband practiced there at one point. He did like a GP training. So it was like, oh, you're the doctor's wife. They'll come in, they'll be like, oh, good morning, you're the doctor. And they're speaking to him and they're like paying more attention now, and you could see, and now they want to do everything. They bring like, oh, let's make sure she has like scans, renal scans.
Even things that were not even required.
They brought the stroke. Let's make sure she's not having it. Because I felt like I was having a stroke. Wow. They even overdid it now. Now I'm going for all the scans. They were like, we're going to keep you. I had to stay in hospital for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I was like, when they were like, the day we thought we're going to, sometimes we'll be like, oh, I think it's finally going back. Let's discharge you. Someone will come and like, no, let's keep you in because there's one more test. I feel like it's just your liver at this point.
Now everyone's trying to cover their back.
Thank you. They're now overcompensating. My husband was like, I'm leaving. I'm going home with my family because he spent his whole paternity leave in the hospital, basically.
Oh, yes.
He had to come back and just go back to work. Now I was by myself with this baby after that traumatic experience and babe. So, but I didn't even think about the after. Okay, we went through preeclampsia. They said once the baby comes out, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I did think after that, I would then go through a whole, like, I had to deal with blood pressure for a while first, like, checking my blood pressure almost every other hour.
Wow.
Putting down the readings, making sure I don't do anything that stresses me out. Then, then being weaned off this medication. But like you were saying, the after effect almost has such a drastic impact on how motherhood was for me. Because for me, unfortunately, my mom couldn't then come to support us.
Yeah.
At that time, because baby came early, he came 4 weeks early, my in-laws were not even around.
Yeah, then even while you had planned, you didn't plan to have to plan.
Yes.
For things to happen beforehand. Yes.
So we didn't have things. I didn't have a hospital bag packed. I didn't have lots of the things that I would have needed for baby at the time. I was thinking, I just came out from baby moon. Now I'm going to start shopping. On that day, everything escalated. At least you had to tell my husband. Not that I had to go to Boots. I was just telling him buy pads, buy clothes, buy nappies. We had Boots bag in the room, everywhere. Just it was such a trauma. Like for a long time, when people tell me about how was your delivery, I almost dissociated from it for a long time. I'll be crying and I don't even... Yeah. It was traumatic. So that after period is really the recovery, the road to recovery after you've had preeclampsia and you had maybe a bad case of it and your organs started acting deranged is a whole nother conversation, healing process that has to take place.
But
being new to motherhood.
Exactly.
And having this new baby, figuring out what that is too.
But you see, from what you said, it's very sad because we can't always have a family member, a husband, a cousin, with a GP, with a doctor, with a medical professional
that knows, that can advocate for you. That's why I tell myself, if I didn't have my husband, I probably would have died.
And if also you had kept quiet, this feeling of yours,
I just thought, oh, that's how, just get on with it. Because especially as Black women, we're taught to just be strong. Just get on with it, Just get on with it.
Yeah, and for me, it's really, I realize it's such a paradox for me because preeclampsia traumatized me and anything related to my pregnancy and my birth. But speaking to other women, I realized that it could have been so much worse. But at the same time, I can't dismiss how it made me feel. I can only have compassion and to listen and to understand as much as I can whoever comes to me to share their experience. But again, I said to myself, what about all these women who don't have the understanding that I had?
Yeah.
What about all these women who don't have the support? And even if it was limited, because I feel like I mostly relied on my husband.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel I was understood, so I just kept quiet.
Yes. Because you're going through so much. You don't even have the energy to speak up. Because
you're just tired of having to justify or explain what is it that is happening to you. Yeah. But what about those who have even less than me?
Yeah. So
less support. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah. How do they navigate this? How and it could be so much worse because some people end up losing their lives, losing their babies.
Yeah, or to have kids that require more care due to pre-eclampsia. And literally that was me not putting aside my pain because I don't want to neglect how it has affected me. I want to face my pain and I want to continue crying if I need to, because anytime I cry, I feel like I'm just offloading whatever I've been keeping inside. Yeah. But I literally, it's using this pain that I went through, that experience that hurts me to my core, to try to prevent as much as possible any other couple, any other women to go through what I went through.
And you're so strong for that.
I said to myself, people are going to be tired of hearing my story because I'm going to talk about it. Yeah. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And this is even less normal for people to have never heard of it when it can have so many consequences.
Yeah. It could be so life-threatening.
Yeah. And mission preeclampsia is this pain that was there. This pain I went through, all these tears that I've shared for months, the loneliness, the hopelessness, to reflect back on what has happened and to say, okay, what is it that I can do so no other women, no other birthing person go through this? Because it's too painful for one person. Yeah. I don't want it. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Let me be the last person
this happens to.
That is hurt by preeclampsia.
I love that.
But at the same time, I'm like, it brings so much joy to me to know that I'm able to share an information that is going to help someone or that's going to save a life.
And empower people. And speaking about empowering women, now let's call out, like, what are some of the important signs of preeclampsia that every mom-to-be mom should know about?
Yeah. I say, because let's say, when they say high blood pressure and protein in the urine, unless you have the tools to check, you won't know. Yeah. So I say symptoms such as headaches. Okay. Headaches that won't go away despite you taking some painkillers for it, ideally paracetamol. Feeling nauseous, having a blurry vision, then realizing that your face, your hands, your feet, your leg are getting swollen. Okay. And to be careful with that, because a lot of times a pregnant woman is expected to put on some weight and to have some swelling. But not to dismiss swelling ever, just to say that it's normal.
Yeah,
it's not always symptom. Normal, right?
Need to check. Yeah.
Yeah. It can also come with feeling nauseous, having like wanted to throw up, like vomiting. Which
is also a part of pregnancy, but I guess maybe if it's in later trimester.
Exactly, but associated to like the whole other symptoms like being swollen and so on.
Okay.
To me, this would be the main ones that I can think of. And also, some pain in the upper right side of the abdomen.
Okay.
Because that's where you have the main organs being there. So
pain, I see maybe shortness of breath too. Does weakness also come with it? Like
or feeling tired. Like just not feeling off, basically. Not feeling like yourself.
It's true. Some people would think, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm so exhausted. But never, if you feel, like trust your instincts. If you don't feel okay, it could be your body telling you something is wrong.
Yes.
So instead of just saying it's pregnancy, maybe just get it checked. Highest you need to be like, you're just pregnant. You know, you're tired anyway, So it's better you just get checked and know that
you voice it.
Voice
and if you really think that it's not improving, to really insist, because
insist and advocate.
I think sometimes healthcare professionals, and I've been at practice, so I know sometimes we can be dismissive. Not that we don't care, but we just think that it might not be something too serious. So if you really think that is not improving and you're worried, insist to be seen, insist to be checked, just so that you can be reassured. But also to continue monitoring, because again, it's just a silent, as I say, it's preeclampsia can be very silent until it becomes very noisy.
Yeah. It doesn't shout, okay?
At all.
Sometimes you just whisper slowly and then it can just happen like that.
And it can make a whole difference.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. I'm going to dive into a little segment, which I love to do from mom to mom, where I read some dilemmas for moms, and then we can weigh in on our opinion and give advice.
Okay. All right.
The first question is, I'm terrified of getting pregnant again after preeclampsia, but my husband wants another baby. My first pregnancy almost killed me, and I'm just scared to go through it again. My husband wants baby number 2. Should I sacrifice my fears for his desires? Even though I do want another baby, I'm just so scared. What should I do?
Well, I think it's a situation I've been in, asking myself, will I ever get ready for a second one?
Yeah.
It's very scary, because I wonder if I will have enough strength to go through this again. I say, don't dismiss your husband completely, but try to have conversations to make him understand where these fears are coming from.
Yeah.
To understand what it meant to you. Because probably, again, he's not carrying the baby. It doesn't mean that he can't understand.
Yeah,
or he's not feeling the kicks and so on, but it doesn't mean that he can't understand what you're going through. Yeah. And even if he was by your side, he might not have perceived certain feelings or certain emotions you had at that time. So just try to have this open and honest conversations about where you at right now. And maybe to find steps to get on the journey. It might not happen now, but it's not something that you want to dismiss completely. Yeah. Maybe let's just wait some time, make sure that because again, I think healing after preeclampsia, not only physically, but mentally is important.
Yes.
So to get him to understand that, it's not that you don't want at all, but check yourself or check where your emotions are at, and then share this with him. So then you have a common ground, common understanding, and take it from there. But that's something I can understand. I think it's even a normal feeling to have after having
very, very
preeclampsia,
normal.
to be scared. Yeah.
I felt exactly the same way. I didn't want to speak about another baby. If someone jokingly was like, "Oh, baby is 6 months now. When is baby number 2 coming?" The way I know it's a joke, but literally I'll be like, "Don't you ever speak to me about having another baby."
Yeah.
Because
how dare you?
How dare you?
Almost died, and you want me to go through the same thing again? Or you want me to die this time around?
You want me to die, obviously,
yes,
right? You know,
yes,
it took me such a long time to even be able to speak about it. So this is a very normal feeling.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Aside that, you're now, because you've had it before, you're at higher risk of getting it again.
Yeah.
So for me, I did have baby number 2.
Okay.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I did come out at the other side. Like, okay, I finally got over my fear and I had baby number 2.
Yeah.
But I think I got to a point where I was just like, because of how traumatic the first one was, I prepared for the worst case scenario. Like, I went in to baby. I knew I wanted to have another baby. I felt like, okay, I want to have another baby. Let me prepare myself. This preeclampsia thing, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to know all the symptoms. I'm going to, make sure I have a plan in place. Okay, I know that I'm going to be induced. So I'm going to plan for, my mind that
your hospital bag is going to be ready
earlier. Exactly. I know I'm not going to make it to full term. So I went in with all this armor. Yeah. Also armored myself with prayers. Okay, God, you saw me through the first one. I'm almost ready. I was praying about it. I knew that potentially I'll have it. But then when I went to my midwife, I was like, I've had preeclampsia before. I know I can have it again. What's the plan? Early on, she was okay, we're going to have consultants appointments. We're going to have more appointments to monitor you. I went in ready, advocating for myself, speaking up and not just waiting for it to happen to me. Check my protein, my urine. Is there protein? My blood pressure, I had the monitor, I was checking it, you know, so that if I just see it going left, I'll be like,
Yeah.
My second dilemma,
yeah,
I don't feel like a normal mom after the trauma. I'm scared to bond with my baby because I almost died giving birth. Is this something that passes?
The thing is, I don't know if it passes. And if it's just temporary, I don't know how long it is for. Yeah. It very much depends. I think in that situation that we just seek some support.
Yes.
From a therapist, from having counseling sessions. Yes. So maybe, just to have a third party involved to discuss this feeling, plus the relationship, and see how this person can help, maybe with tools, exercises.
Yeah. Because it is trauma you went through.
Yeah.
So therapy would probably be helpful in terms of healing you and that traumatic experience, that could then maybe help move that further along in terms of you getting to a space of healing and then being able to bond with your baby. So I definitely suggest that.
I just think it's important. I don't think, again, this should be underestimated. And also not to feel guilty about this feeling.
Yes, exactly.
It might not make sense to a lot of people, but I think it can be legitimate to have after the experience. So not to feel guilty and to be open about it, but with people who are willing to understand why this is happening. I don't think it's not normal to have this feeling. And I just think that it needs to be addressed the right way.
I like that way you say, don't feel guilty. It's normal because you've just been through trauma.
Yeah.
So your feelings are valid.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we close, what would you say to any moms out there who, just got recently diagnosed or is still recovering from preeclampsia?
To me, the emotional impact preeclampsia has on one's life should never be underestimated. I think it's you are going to be scared, you are going to feel lonely. Not always the case, but I think these kind of feelings and emotions are absolutely normal.
Yeah.
Loneliness, fearful, powerless, not knowing, not having a clue, not knowing what to say, not knowing how to say, not knowing what is going on.
What the outcome
not knowing
will be.
What to ask happens. But for me, it's important not to, or to talk about it, like to find someone you can confide in. If, let's say, the person you go to the first time doesn't really understand, you really get to find someone that can support you through this journey, because it's not something easy to navigate, and to get the support, to have someone that can maybe reassure you, maybe make you smile, it's important. I say this because I didn't always get it.
Yeah.
And I wish I had been able to offload a little bit when things were getting very scary.
Yeah.
And tense. I mean, you can also reach out to me if you have any questions.
Definitely.
Like
Mission Preeclampsia.
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. If you have any question, to have someone who have gone through the experience sometimes helps. Outside of reaching out to me, there are also support available. So you have APEC, the charity, Action of Preeclampsia. They also have a helpline. There's also the Tommy's helpline for Black and brown women and birthing people, Samaritans, Minds. These are the charities organization you can reach out to. Then if, let's say, it's the aftermath of preeclampsia, sometimes baby is born before term, and then you have Bliss to support parents who have their babies admitted in NICU. And when the outcome of preeclampsia is the extreme of it, which means baby loss, you have SENS, you have lots of organizations that are there to support parents navigating the loss. But again, for me, it's really important to have this support system, the one that you create within your circle, but also the one that you can find outside of your circle. Yeah, I think it makes a difference. It does. To know that you're not alone. Also, I think what I found difficult was to feel I was the only one going through preeclampsia, as if I was the first person who was diagnosed with preeclampsia here in the UK as a Black woman. I didn't find any other stories. None.
Because people are not even speaking about it.
Yeah, and I was just like, how can I, like, why is this happening to me? Because then you feel guilty that your body is not operating the way that it should.
Why exactly?
When you're not done, because now I get to speak to women, and then they've experienced preeclampsia themselves, or they know someone who knows someone who has.
So it's not rare.
Exactly.
We just don't speak about it.
I think in our close circle, even friends and family, we all know someone.
Yes. Who has had
preeclampsia. By the way, it's Preeclampsia Awareness Month.
Yes.
Our Mission Preeclampsia, we're going to be sharing stories.
Yes.
Because for me, I was just like, okay, let's just step away from how bodies are medically impacted. Let's just talk about emotionally
mental.
Let's just talk. Let's just address that, because it's something very heavy.
Well, thank you so much. This basically wraps up this episode.
Thank you for having me. Tears I didn't expect.
Thank you for opening up and being so vulnerable, to be honest, because it's very vulnerable, and it's such, sometimes when you talk about it, you go back, you're transported back into that moment. So being vulnerable to share and not be scared of even just the tears.
I think I've passed that stage now.
Yeah.
And it's very, very funny because I gave birth in January 2023. The first time I ever shared my story was in May 2024. Because I was invited during a study day to share my story in front of midwives and doctors. And it was scary, to talk about something that was so personal to strangers. But it was a starting point of so many other times where I shared aspects of it, but also where I started doing things to make sure that preeclampsia is on the map.
Yeah.
People have heard about it at least once before they become, at least that's the aim. I don't think pregnancy should be the time when you find out about preeclampsia. It should happen way before. It should and then not only women, because I think men also have their part to play. There's a story that I shared. The lady, literally, her partner was the one saying, "We're going to the hospital. You're having pre-eclampsia."
Wow, because he kind of was educated and aware of the symptoms
so
to look out for.
we all have a role to play as a community, within the community. Yeah. So it's just not women. It's not always us to have to do all the work. Yeah, we carry the baby, but I also think that the whole community has to be supportive when it comes to education and spotting the signs as well.
Education. So if you're listening right now, please share this episode. You might know someone who is navigating pregnancy or someone that might be pregnant. You know, we're all, you know, this is something that happens every single day, right? People are going to have babies. A lot of people, if you're not aware of the symptoms, it can be easily missed. So please share this episode, tag us on Instagram as Mission Preeclampsia and After Making a Baby. Let's get the conversation going. Let's keep the conversation going and create awareness, because awareness saves lives. Okay? So if this resonated with you, please try and do something. That's your assignment, homework, which is very simple.
Exactly.
Very simple. Share this with someone. Try and be educated on the symptoms.
Read about it.
It's Preeclampsia Awareness Month.
Yes.
Right?
It's now or never.
Exactly. What better time than now to, you know, to kind of share the message out there and put it out there for others that it might save. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing. God bless you, sis. Oh, this has been such a deep healing episode. So till the next time, After Making a Baby community, thank you for sticking with us. And if you know, please feel free to share your stories, please. You can share it in the comments. You can send me an email at After Making a Baby. You already have the contact. And you can also reach out to Sarah at Mission Preeclampsia. Please, you have the resources out there to support you. And we're here for you. Thank you. Until the next time, remember, you've got this, mama.
See you.